Hey, good afternoon, everyone. And of course, it's time for another Friday update. This is going to be a good one. We have some really good news in today's update. So, as always, let's get started when I get the sign off from you folks.
You look like you have a floating head because of your black shirt on the black couch. Audio good.
Okay, so like I said, we have got some good news in our top 10, which we might as well start with. So, for the last few weeks, and actually more than that at this point, last few months, we've been telling you about the two systems that we needed to land and get in good shape before we announced the date of Beta 1. You've seen the animation system. Obviously, a work in progress, but actually making nice progress. The second one was the improved VFX SFX system. I can say happily that it is now, the first pass of it is now in the game. So, what does that mean? What exactly is an improved system? So, what it is everything you see in the game, the particle effects, animations, all of that has to perform at scale, when we have the large scale battles. Has to be fast, has to not crash, all those good things. This pass is the first step in not only a system that's going to give us a lot more functionality and actually make Mike Crossmeyer smile. It's not often, we try to get it on camera for you folks, but so far he is smiling because he can create now the kind of effects that he's wanted to create. And based on the conversations these guys continue to have, there's a whole lot of other stuff that's going to be going in as well. So the first pass is in. Tyler has started work, and Mike has started work on taking advantage of it. What you'll see is an improved world. Slowly, as we add new things, and in terms of new things, new particle effects. We take advantage of the features, which I'm going to talk about in a couple of seconds. Once we start actually taking advantage of them, the world will change. But the system's in, it's performing really well. We'll be running lots of tests on it over the next few weeks. And then certainly once we get into beta, we've got another major improvement to it coming up, which will make it even more performant than it currently is, which is already way better than the old system. So, really good news. As to what this really means, well, I'll give you some of the items. So, remember the glowing leaves? Well, we've actually taken care of that now. So now leaves will only glow when we want them to. Meaning that, or how we did that, of course, is particles are now lit properly by the world. Particles can receive shadows. Particles can use normal maps. We now added glow map support. We've improved the handling of transparency and distortions. More particle alignment options. At the end of the day, what this means is the game is going to start looking even better than it already does. So, expect things like falling leaves to return to the game and be a particle, part of the new particle effect system. Look for lights on the water to look better. In today's update, we'll tell you just how many lights we tested, and certainly you guys have seen, us test, I believe, scenes with hundreds of lights. Yeah, we scaled that up just a little bit. I believe Dave added 2,000 lights to a scene, and it didn't bring the engine to its knees. So that's the kind of improvement in performance that you can expect from the system, and we've got even ways to improve it more, coming up after Beta 1. So the next thing, manual aiming. So if you've been part of the tests over the week, you've seen some of the different ways we might allow archers, siege weapons, any kind of projectiles that travel via an arc to be used by the players. What is in there right now are just different ideas. It is not the aiming system for the game. We had some reticle aiming. We had now some template-based aiming. All of this is put in for one reason, and that is to have you folks and us test it. As lead designer here, I don't care which one we choose or which ones we choose, as long as it suits the needs of our backers and the players who are actually playing characters or using this equipment. So over the next few weeks and as well months, you'll see other aiming modes getting in. We're going to want to get your feedback, especially if you are not currently testing. We'd love you to jump in once we have a wide array of options open, because this is something that you can only do by feel, right? You can't really sit back and go, oh no, I know this system is going to be perfect. This is absolutely one of the reasons why, if you remember when I said why we picked the Archer for Beta 1, this is why. So we could iterate on what is going to be a long road to get as close to a perfect feel for manual aiming in this game. Next, work in progress tech, jumping. Yeah, the jumping we had in the game, lame. We know that. It was a placeholder. It wasn't meant to be anything great. Scott and Andrew have been working on the next set of not only jump animations, but tech to support jump. So you'll actually have a recovery, you'll have the jump, and you'll have the preparation first, then the jump, and then recovery. Other things that we're going to add to the game down the road would be the ability to control the height of your jump, to make you jump higher, make you jump further, as well as compensate in terms of the animation for how long you were in the air. So that's going to be pretty cool, and something obviously needed for the game. Here's one that you guys really won't think is important, but it kind of is. It's called Elasticsearch for C++. And essentially what this is more logging. Logging is kind of important. You folks know that. You can also call it metrics, because essentially it's all about gathering data. And the logging data that Colin has been working on is to try to find that elusive, still not reproed problem with occasional disconnects of the servers or desyncs of the servers. We're working on that now. You might hear during this presentation, you might hear AJ's voice telling people to jump in the game. We're running a really boring test, which is why we didn't send out a message to you folks, where all we do is we have people jump in, they play for a few minutes, then we restart the servers. Rinse, wash, repeat. We're going to be doing that for the next hour, hopefully to get a repro. Another tech improvement, simply to server restarting. Rob found some issues, some of the ones that have been plaguing us for a little bit about or when players log in and they're allowed into the game a little too soon. So we know we have fixed some of those. That's also in testing in this version. Hey, we have a new server. We added fledgling to the mix. That's going to allow us to now with fledgling, Wormling Prep, and Wormling. Those will be the servers that you folks will be testing on most of the time, and we'll be able to reserve hatchery really just for developers and occasionally IT. So fledgling has now been added to the list, and that is also actually what we're testing right now on the restart tests. Skills loading from the database. This just makes it easier for Ben and I to change and get skills into the game instantly. Next. Lighting transparency improvements. So along with the particle rendering improvements we've made, we've also improved the rendering of transparency with our lighting system. So if you got the email from me yesterday regarding closing of the last Beta 1 test, that had a couple of shots. We'll have more shots in the update as well. And the difference is really night and day. So again, another step in making our engine and making the game look prettier. We added another pass on willow trees. So you saw the screenshots last week. from Dion with her work on Willows. We have another generation of them going in, and we're beginning on work on making the willow trees more realm representative. So we'll have willow trees for the TDD, for the Vikings, potentially, and certainly for the Arthurians. Animations. So lots of work continues, not only on the animation system, but animations themselves. So we've updated the jump animations. We've updated unarmed combat idols. We've made changes to the two-handed axe improvements. We're reworking the polearm animation, and looking at other things we can do to make the animations that you see in the game look even better. And in a few weeks, we will have a presentation from Scott and Andrew talking about the animation system and why it's different from.
Okay, I just wanted to jump in and add a clarification around animation. Just want to make sure, since we've got, when you guys are jumping in and tests and everything, and you're looking at what we're talking about with the animations, right now go on to make a Viking, use the two-handed axe. That's where we're putting all our kind of prototyping in. Andrew's working on some tech that'll allow us to kind of share pieces of these animations for different weapon sets and everything. So just to be sure you guys are looking in the right place as we audit. It's two-handed axe. That's it.
So next on the list, we've added, Tyler began working on the new VFX testing map. So that's where you're going to be able to see the first instances of our use of the new lighting and particle system. Next up, siege engines. So John streamed his work on the Arthurian siege engine, and now he's working on a high poly modeling pass. After that, we moved to materials, and I know that Matt has already started work on getting ready for the first siege engine, new siege engine to go into the game. Next, the Beta 1 resource nodes. So as we told you folks that during Beta 1 we're going to be using resource nodes for all the materials you could gather. So those are being added to the game. What we also want to find out is how quickly we can iterate and create new nodes, because whether it's my ridiculous 200 plus items of wood, or just the normal amount of different metals, different stones, different even now leathers that you can gather, they'll all come off nodes for the beginning of Beta 1, and then as we put in the bubble tech, or take what we have and turn it into bubble tech, we'll start to have actually mines, and then when we put animals in, you'll be able to skin from there. But in the meantime, this will give you folks a chance to help test the system. That will be very useful moving forward when it comes to mining. Last on the top 10 was improved VFX for testing. So Cross has been creating lots of test cases for the tech improvements, and as well as VFX. So you're going to be seeing some screenshots of that, I believe, in today's update, and we'll be adding smoke and air debris as well to the place of power, so we can do some additional transparency testing. And that's it on today's top, 13 or 14?
I think it was 14.
14.
Yeah.
And yeah, good news. In terms of testing for this weekend, we don't think we'll have any. Hatchery may be open to, ITs, but it was such a big drop in terms of a code and other things that are going in today that we don't right now. We think we have a stable version. We're not sure yet because all this stuff is happening real time. So I don't know if there'll be a test this weekend. I will, of course, let you know in the next few hours. So having said that, I want to open it up to Q&A and then get back to work. So go ahead, folks.
All right, folks, write up your questions for MJ. Gonna play the Q&A intro.
Who are you?
Turn the stove off. Did I hear a dog?
Do you like my shirt?
When are this?
Is this my spleen?
Now it is time to answer some questions.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah,
I'll
go
start.
ahead.
So Max told me when we were playing the intro that obviously there were a lot of questions about Beta 1. Again, folks, please remember what I've said, that once we have the animation system in and in a state where we can absolutely project how long it's going to take to get all the animations we need either created or updated, as well as once we know that the VFX system is solid. Once we have that, we'll be able to make an estimate on Beta. The good news is these were the last two big systems that we needed before Beta. Obviously, the animation system is huge. It's the underpinning of everything that's going to make this game fun. Because if the animation systems suck and the animations suck, then you're not going to want to play this game. So that's something that is a work in progress, and something that is has been iterated on every day since Andrew put in, initially put in the system. In terms of VFX, it's also an important system, and the good news is all it has to be for the opening of Beta 1 is performant. Obviously, we're going to be adding a lot more functionality to it during Beta 1, but the key is performant. And we'll know, while we've been running tests already, we'll really know when we can get the bots hooked up with the new VFX and abilities and just spam them like crazy. So once that's all done, then I'll make the announcement.
All right, folks, I'm going to let that stand in as the answer for all Beta 1 timing questions. Scott the Rock asks, will crafting become easier?
Depends how you define easy. If you mean easy, easier, that you won't be using a slash command, obviously. We've said right from the beginning that the slash commands and all that were just meant so we could get the core system in without worrying about UI, without worrying about anything else other than, hey, I want some materials, I want to test the formulas, I want to test the timing, I want to just actually make something without having to build a full UI around it. So if you mean in that way, yes, it will become easier. If you mean in another way, rephrase your question and I'll make sure to answer it.
Odilvik asks, regarding aiming, has there been any further discussion on an accuracy, stat, or skill to prevent all archers automatically becoming Robin Hood level archers?
Well, it's funny because you know this from the forums that people are actually, some people are saying the exact opposite, that if we go with, like we have been, a system where you actually have to aim and not just tab target and have your magic missile arrow track the guy, that people won't be able to hit things. So I think both are wrong. I don't think it's going to be so bad that nobody's going to hit anything, and nor do I think everyone's going to be Robin Hood the minute they pick up a bow. So, this is one of the things that, of course, we will iterate on, but we've been very clear, from the beginning, that arrows are like, any other projectile. There is some tracking, but it's not like every other game where you'll always hit the target, or almost every MMO, sorry, where you will hit the target simply by tab targeting and firing.
Jelfins asks, did you ever know that you're my hero?
Oh, thank you very much. I assume you like the games and not my natty sense of attire nor my sneakers. So I do appreciate it, though. I am not in any way making fun of you for that. I appreciate it greatly. I've tried very hard in my career to not only make great games, but also to treat whether they're players or backers the way I want to be treated. That's always been my rule, and I have no intention of changing it.
Abducted Gaming asks, what is the new fledgling server for?
It's just another test server. The whole point of our servers is to be able to have not only, obviously, testing, but different staging areas for different tests. So, with having 3 separate servers and then keeping Hatchery for devs, we, just made our life easier and made it easier as well to have more focused tests on one server than different tests on another server. and just make it very easy to do that.
Odelvik has 2 questions. Swazi would like to know, will stats for different materials be made public, or will we need to discover on our own by trial and error? Also, will materials with the most desirable stats be more difficult to find, or will they be derived from common materials that require a lot of refining by crafters?
Yes, yes, yes. Yes to all of those.
Well, what about the either or one? Stats for different materials be made public, or discover
Yeah.
by trial and error?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah. Look, if you obviously you've been following what we've said in beta or before beta about beta, that we don't want to hide a lot of stuff from you guys, because obviously if you're building with a block that you think should be strong, and we think it should be strong, and you don't know it should be strong, and then it isn't as strong, then that's not going to help us, not at all. So yes, you're going to be able to know the stats for beta. Those will change when we go live, and certainly as we move forward, there'll be times where you can know the actual stats of an object. Other times you won't be able to discover that except through trial and error.
Francis Baudelaud asks, can we build walls on the map other than on our building plots, something like Age of Empire?
Yeah, what we've said in the past is that you can obviously always build on your plot. You can build on a shared plot, and you'll be able to build on non-aligned plots. So, I think that covers all the possibilities.
Mr. Honest John asks, will I be able to, on day 1, go out as a scout and penetrate deep into enemy territory up to the gate of an enemy safe zone?
Probably not, simply because you'll be on day 1. It may not be the safest thing for you to do. In theory, could you do it? Yes, in theory you could do it. But as a day 1 player, without knowing how to use all your abilities yet, with not having some of the more powerful abilities, it may be quite difficult to get there.
Deshoka asks, in regards to the new particle and graphic updates, how balanced or optimized between CPU and GPU are they at this point?
That's an ongoing thing, and there's no real good way to answer that, because sometimes if we say, hey, it's all optimized for the GPU, that actually isn't totally true. And it's not true for all cards. Like, for example, obviously people who have had AMD cards have had more of an issue with our game than NVIDIA. Now, that's not because there's any prejudice against AMD. We just haven't had the time to work on that yet. So, once we get through probably the middle of beta, we'll be able to answer that better. Because one of the things we are going to try to do, and this was something we talked about, I mentioned a little earlier, is with the particle effects, we want to move those to the GPU. Because if we can do that, and we laid the groundwork, by the way, for doing that with our, the OIT, once we can do that, we'll be able to get even more, performance out of the game.
Fierent asks, is the desync issue the only big bug we are trying to catch?
Oh yeah, right now, that's the only big one. Whole bunch of small ones, as you might expect, but in terms of really big bugs, that's it. Now the good news is, as I said in my update, we haven't had a repro of that in a week. Now it's bad because we don't think we fixed anything, but at least it's good that it's not a problem that kept rearing its head. And one of the reasons we're doing today's test was because the first time it reared its head was when we had moved over to do testing on prep, and it was like all of a sudden we saw that problem. So we were hoping that when we moved over to fledgling, we'd have the same problem. Sadly, we haven't.
G-Dale wants to know, how will the crafting UI be improved?
In every possible way. There is no crafting UI, right now. non-existent. So when we actually get to building out the UI, that will be the first pass of a real UI. And by the way, by crafting, I assume you mean item crafting, alloys, that stuff, and not ability crafting. If you meant ability crafting, let me know.
Grimbane09 asks, way back around the BSC days, Mark talked about having referral rewards for backers who bring friends in to back CU as well. Any update on when this will happen?
Yeah, once we get into beta.
Toto Tata asks about giant races, and will they be able to play a true giant? I'm not talking about a little bit bigger, more like 2x.
Let's see how it works out. I certainly would love to get to 2x, but let's just see. I mean, a little bit bigger isn't really giant. Luckily, there's a nice wide gap between a little bit bigger and 2x. So we'll see how much we can scale them up before it just doesn't make sense, within the game.
A couple of questions from Strike and OG Musashi about the timeline of when they'll be able to stream Beta 1, or when it will still be under NDA.
Hopefully, I would love to see us lift the NDA during Beta 1. Certainly, if nothing else, we'll have a limited lift. So we'll see. At a minimum, we will, maybe 2 months in, maybe before, allow streamers to stream certain tests. Like if you've been, obviously you've been part of the game, there are times where we call people in to look for bugs. We certainly don't want that streamed. Other times when they're just normal tests where we know the client and the server are as rock solid as any beta can be, we'd be happy to stream it. Have people stream that.
Lev Valine asks, so if you play as a crafter class, will you by design be totally helpless without a group to protect you?
No. Well, I've said that also right from the beginning. Crafters can defend themselves. They're not going to be good at it. And certainly if you were a day one crafter meeting a day one combatant, you will lose. But as you get more powerful and you can do certain things and make certain things to protect yourself, you'll still lose, but you'll be able to give a much better fight. The key for crafters is that if you have more than one, if you're working together, then the combatants will not be able to look at you as an easy kill. But you will never be able to go toe-to-toe with the equivalent combatant. But luckily there's quite a wide gap between being able to go 1-on-1 and just dying in one hit. So, being able to survive for a bit, being able to, maybe use some of the things you have to escape, that's all part of the game plan.
Batchfile Gaming asks, will there be certain servers that get early access to updates for testing?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Love the name, Batchfile. Brings back memories.
Scott the Rock asks, will there be a new island for Beta 1 with all the pretty landscapes we've seen, or will we be stuck in the same testing zone as we've been on?
Oh God, no. The testing. So the flat, the flat building zone is meant to be nothing more. And I said this in my update as well, that it's meant to be a flat building zone. It's meant to be boring as hell. We wanted nothing on that whatsoever. We just wanted buildings and more buildings and more buildings. That's all it's for. It's not representative of anything we consider, reality, other than we want a place where we can just shove as many buildings as we can into the game for you guys and gals to, beat on, destroy, set on fire, and we're going to do the same things with our bots. The islands that you're going to see for the real Beta 1 are going to look so much better, though it wouldn't take much to look better than the building island. They'll be more like what you've seen in the fall biome, or in the normal biomes, the standard biomes we've been running.
Lottoween asks, Have you decided on names for any of the servers post-launch, or is that still on the to-do list?
Oh God, we haven't even talked about that. Not. That's truly nothing that we have, even thought about.
Arcane Cloister asks, in what phase of beta will Discord be added to the game?
When Discord gets their, API ready to use. They're still very early in the evolution of it, and when it gets a little further along, we certainly can't wait to put it in. But we're just waiting on, we're just waiting on them to do what you folks are waiting on us to do, to get to the beta.
Epsilon QC asks, will there be any uses for player housing besides for decoration purposes?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Toto Tata asks, will you be able to build underground?
Maybe. And by underground, don't be thinking of, hey, I can just dig a hole here, because we've said that that's a no-go. But will you be able to build underground essentially in bubbles and things like that? Yes, we would like you to be able to do that.
Leveline, if you could clarify that martial arts skills question for me, then I'll ask it. Odilvik wants to clarify their previous question. Regarding my previous accuracy question, I wanted to clarify, will characters have a % hit chance that can be improved? Or, ignoring fumbles, will they have 100% hit rate at max range?
Well, see, here we go again. It's the same, so it's the same question, right? Just in a little bit different way. When you say something has a 100% hit chance, well, that means that the ability always hits, right? Which means it would have to be able to avoid trees or avoid, not active dodging, because we've said this game isn't an active dodge kind of game. But for you to be able to move away from something, be able to have an arrow that's coming right towards you and somebody steps in front of it for you. So that's, the 100% accuracy doesn't apply to this game with a lot of things. Now, some things, the idea of absolutely missing because, the spell you roll badly, absolutely. But don't think of archery as, hey, as my skill improves, I can make these shots that would be the equivalent of abilities and spells in other games that always track 100%. We don't have those, for most of the projectiles in the game. That makes things too easy.
Brando2 asks, will particles be affected by the air system, or play any part of a spell's effect in the world, or are they more just for visual flair to make a magic spell look magical?
Right now, they're there for visual flair. If we have to worry about particle collision in the way of gameplay, that would get kind of complex and would really slow things down when you think about how many particles can be running in the world. But could we have something in the world that looks like a particle effect that you could interact with? Yes, but then it would be instantiated as an object in the world that has a particle effect wrapped around it and not as a particle effect.
Abducted Gaming asks, do you think it will be difficult to develop the existing bots up to the complexity you want for the first pass of NPC guards for Beta 1? And can you describe what that first pass might look like?
No, not at all. It won't be. It really won't be. And luckily, we have a guy here whose name you've heard a lot, by the name of Rob, who kind of knows a little bit about that stuff as well. So, no, we don't think that's going to be hard at all. I know that's something he can't wait to work on. And in terms of what kind of duties and abilities they'll have in the beginning, really simple. I mean, look, the NPC guards is something we could even lose for Beta 1, opening of Beta 1, because they're not all that relevant. The building that you're going to be doing in the beginning is going to be in safe islands. Then we're also going to have building in the non-safe islands. The important distinction, of course, is in the safe islands, you really don't need guards. You won't be able to get there if you're a member of the other realm. You won't be able to destroy anything. Those safe islands are there for you folks to build, for us to be testing the stability system, all of that. And then in the contested islands, you'll be able to build, and at that point, we hope players will actually be doing the guarding.
Silo asks, will this game have an infiltrator type class that can scale walls like in Dark Age of Camelot?
Look up Scouts and Camelot Unchained. I think you'll really like what you see.
Also, check out the links that somebody just put in there, Silo.
Perfect.
From Mubot. Strike asks, will Max be allowed to get out of the office to grab an ice and then come back? I don't even know what that means. Let's see. All right. Loki XRBX. Bringing back the day one question. What if you have a guild-ready team? Will it be possible for them to camp the gate? Would be nice if you have unkillable NPCs for protection.
No, you won't be able to camp the gate. You won't be able to camp the gate. You won't be able to do anything like that in Beta 1. Not in the Safe Island. The Safe Island is called the Safe Island for a reason. You can, get close to it, but you won't be able to get on it. You'd be able to, on the other hand, try to camp landing areas for the contested islands. But the safe islands are meant to be safe. So, camping the gate is the equivalent to making it non-safe.
Odilvik asks, will Andrew be doing a live stream shave as part of the beta launch celebrations?
I would assume so.
Drooged asks, the first taste of progression, is that going to be visible in a test prior to Beta 1?
Oh, yeah. That's easy, of course.
They add, I think it might be get a few more people involved, even if it's just a very quick progression sequence.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not something we want to go live with, even in beta, until we've done some testing on it. Otherwise, that would be bad. Bad things could happen.
Loki XRBX asks, will there be pets to raise to battle alongside you in your travels, complete with permadeath?
Not in the traditional way. If you look up as well our spirit classes, that's the closest we come to actually having a pet class in the game. We've talked about how, from the beginning, how we're focused on frame rate, and pets are cool, pets slow down frame rate. So at least as of now, there are no plans to have them on at launch. I love pets. I play pet classes a lot in MMOs, but we have to. Our job is making a great game without them, and then we can always look at adding them down the road if we think the engine at that point can still handle large-scale battles when everyone brings in their pet whatever.
Rodolphus asks, in what beta phase will the realm ownership of contested islands cause cosmetic or functional changes in the environment?
That's actually a lot of different things that could happen. In terms of immediate change, we're going to have that for Beta 1. In terms of the much deeper change and things like islands moving together, that won't happen for the opening of Beta 1. But we already played around with, and I think Andrew streamed it at some point, what happens when you take over a piece of territory in an enemy realm. So that's something we're all working on. It's not going to be anything, oh my god, this is amazing. But it'll be the first pass at that tech. But certainly, well before the last stage of beta, you'll see the final system.
Joshua Lemon, if you could clarify your question, what designs you're talking about, I will ask the clarified version. Let's see. Brandon Logue asks, with regards to player-made cities, can guilds or players, will they be able to lock other guilds or players in the same realm like you can with houses?
You mean could you lock somebody? If you mean could you lock somebody in a city, in theory, but they would have. Well, you could set up, I guess, a trap that could set off them or set them into a place where they couldn't get out of, but then there would always be a way to get out.
You said Rob knows something about NPCs, and Ladween says, does Rob know how to do something other than burn?
Yes, believe it or not, he does.
Lev Valine asks, about archery. Is it truly physical? You aim, release, and the arrow lands around where you aim, even if the enemy moves. So volleys from archer teams will be able to cover a certain area hit by hit?
That's the idea. I mean, we talked about that as well during the Kickstarter. I think that's an important thing to have in our game. It will make archers even more useful to have. But as always, there's a price to be paid for that. This is something that's been an ongoing theme for this game, is that if you're going to have power like the archers will, then they have to give up something. And one of those things, for example, is hitting everything they aim at. You won't be able to do that with this game. You will not have all the attacks, all your attacks won't have that kind of tracking. Same with mages. If we want to give certain mages very powerful siege spells, we can also allow them to track perfectly. So, trade-offs. But yes, the idea of having archers who can volley like that and fill up a space, absolutely.
Scott the Rock asks, will you add more animation text since we are behind in animations?
Well, I wouldn't say tech. If you mean other animators, probably at some point. But right now, Scott and Sandra are certainly capable and have been doing what we need. Down the road, when we need to add more animations more quickly, sure, then maybe we can outsource some.
Toton Tata asks, will there be mechanical and magic traps in the game?
Yes.
Odolvik asks, any chance of a crafter class reveal with names, etc. sometime soon?
No. Mainly because right now the crafter class for Beta 1 is simply the crafter class. And you'll be able to access whatever is there. And by whatever is there, I don't mean because we don't know what's going to be there. But over the course of betas, we're just going to be adding more and more stuff for you folks to do. And I'd rather have that open to all you crafters before starting to get into the class distinctions.
Krakatoa Crazy Crafter asks, will archery classes be able to make better arrows than a crafter?
No. At the end of the day, archers will have some ability to make arrows, especially in the beginning. They'll also have some other things that they can do to help themselves, but the crafters have to be the ones making the most powerful arrows, just as they make the most powerful swords. Since archers rely on their bows, they rely on their arrows, we have to allow the crafters to make that, because that would be both unfair to the crafters and to every other class that has to go to them for their weapons and their armor.
Brando 2 asks, what are your thoughts on season events in the game, such as adding lore-based events or real-world traditional events in the game?
Certainly adding lore-based events is somewhere where I want to go. Big fan of that. I think since we're creating our own lore as well as using the laws of the existing realms, that we can have a lot of fun with that.
Toto Tata asks, will oceans have waves and tempests, or will it be depressingly flat like all other games?
No, they will have waves. We want, whether it's using NVIDIA's WaveWorks or our own, we want the ocean to actually look and feel like an ocean.
Lodoween asks, which class trios will be added to the game before Beta 2?
Oh, you know I'm not going to tell you yet. And honestly, I don't even know. And the reason I don't know is because it depends on how well testing goes with these three. If there are issues, if we spotted, some don't like something in terms of aiming, then, for example, putting in a class that also relies on aiming wouldn't be a great idea, and not until we get the aiming solved. So that is something that's very up in the air.
Arcane Cloister asks, just wondered if you have started working on Veilstorms yet, as they are going to be an important part of the gameplay in CU, I think. And is that something that's easy or hard to implement?
It will be relatively easy to just add the basic storm. The more complicated ones, of course, we need to have all the systems in place before we actually put a Veilstorm on. For example, Veilstorms that affect bubbles, Veilstorms that affect structures, Veilstorms that really affect NPCs. We actually have to have that all in place, before we put them in. That's truly a cart before the horse. So, definitely much later in beta.
Drooged asks, can you opine on the difference between crafting templates and crafting recipes? When crafters save something new that they completed, is that a saved blueprint or a modified template?
Well, if right now for templates and blueprints, I'm looking at it as blueprints, at first for buildings, right? That's the most important thing, because those are going to be in first. Eventually, as we have all the stages of the crafting system in, where you can take a handle of a sword and then put a different blade in it and do other things, that's when the idea of blueprints for items that are not, for example, stone blocks or mini walls or even larger walls, as our cube builders use, then that's going to become more important. But because we've already have the blueprint tech working for Cube, that's going to be the first place it's used.
Here's a quick one. Epsilon QC asks, will there be cross-faction chat?
Oh, no, not a chance. That's something that I was against in Dark Age, and obviously we didn't have it, and we're not going to have it here. No cross-faction chat.
Strike JK asks, can we blot out the sun with our arrows?
Not a chance. Be cool to try, though. Maybe we'll try that for a test. I'm curious now.
Strike asks, will weapons or armor break down completely at some point?
Yes. The system that I've already laid out for durability, let's see, best way to say this. Sure the best way to say it is just to talk about it. So when you create an item, or you get an item, if you got a starting item from the game, it has a certain durability. It has a certain number of times that you can repair the item. And there's a little bit more that I'll explain when we give the crafting presentation. When you repair an item, it takes away from the amount of times you can repair it again. When you run out of repairs, you lose the item. It's gone, it's salvageable, that sort of thing. So, yes, everything breaks down eventually. There is no way to repair, and will be any way to repair anything indefinitely. There'll be ways to slow down the decay process. There'll be ways to extend the life of items. But there can't be things that last forever, because if there are, then everyone will have one. And then if everyone has one, then we either have to keep putting in new items that are so much better than the old items to get people to give up the items that last forever, then we'll be in a horrible power creep. And we don't want to do that. So, any item that you have will eventually, break and will not be able to be repaired. But you can do things, and the crafters can do things to help extend the life of those items.
Loki XRBX asks, will there be public events granted by the king? For example, a dragon is endangering the realm, please kill it.
Oh, I think there'll be some things that will be more scripted like that, but don't expect a lot of PvE ones. That would be kind of against the principles of the game, especially if we gave you, say, a lot of the equivalent of XP, or even like very special drops. That then makes it far too close to PvE.
Scott the Rock asks, Will we be able to swim and not just die in beta?
I don't know about it. I don't know for the opening of Beta 1. I haven't discussed that. Obviously, we want swimming to be in as part of the game. For the opening of Beta 1, if you mean by, dying, do you mean water that you can actually walk in without dying? Yes. Swimming, maybe not.
Ryer C asks, can only crafters prepare items? Or will you be able to do that yourself as a character? Will damaged items do less damage or block less damage?
So first one first. Crafters combatants will be able to do some crafting. We've talked about popcorn crafting, even before the Kickstarter. So yes, have some things you'll be able to do. In terms of the second one, yes, as your durability of the item wears down, it becomes less effective, whether it's a sword, or a shield.
Septica 2 asks, do you plan to do something to promote Guild Realm server loyalty? I miss that kind of thing more and more in modern MMOs compared to Dayak and Warhammer.
Absolutely. We have. I'm shaking my head because it's actually kind of funny. That there are so many things that are important to this game, and I've touched on, I hope, most of them with the foundational principles. That was one of them. Having people believe in their realm, having them work together, trying to be cohesive, that's kind of important. And so, yes, we will definitely have that.
Odilvik asks, will we have waterfalls in-game? Will we be able to redirect streams to fill moats?
Certainly we want waterfalls in terms of redirecting water to make moats. That is something we want as well.
Tototata asks, is CU's world flat, like Earth?
Do I look like an NBA basketball player to you? Yeah, that whole flat Earth thing just makes me smile and shake my head and also be sad. But no, our world is not flat.
Krakatoa Crazy Crafter asks, can we craft lightning rods to protect our buildings from Veilstorms?
Oh, well, you can certainly craft some defenses, and in that case would be kind of a Veil Rod, because it's not just lightning that is the power of the Veilstorms.
Leveline asks, is a building builder very distinct from a crafter?
Depends how far we want to go. We have talked about, obviously, allowing people to both craft items and to build. If we found that there was so much that could be done by the crafters that we would have to break them up into separate builders and crafters, that's certainly something we could talk about. But for now, the intent is still one crafting class, and how you decide to use your abilities will determine where your focus is, whether on crafting or building. And yes, you can do both. You just won't be able to be the best at both. Same with combatants.
Tim Borgren asks, will there be any kind of achievement system in the game? If so, will the achievements have a meaningful benefit, or will it be like a new color or new title as in normal achievement systems?
Yeah, no, I like achievements, obviously. The Tome of Knowledge for Warhammer was certainly one of my favorite pushes for the game. I mean, that was something that I believed in, and I wrote up. I remember when I wrote it up on my whiteboard, and then kept pushing the team to do more with it. We just didn't have the time and resources to go as far as I wanted to go with it. They did a great job on delivering, and I still think the Tome is one of the best, if not the best of its kind. I would hope that we could come close to it. Obviously, it's a PvE game versus an RVR game. But yeah, I love all that, and I think we can do some interesting things with our game too. Okay, 5 minutes, guys.
Scott the Rock asks, how will people be able to buy from the crafter? How will people get money?
Money is going to come from the king, or as well from crafters. So, we've talked about the daily rewards. So when you get these rewards, they will, of course, include cash or in currency, because let's not say cash, because then people think, oh God, cash shop. No, in-game currency. So you'll get that. Also, crafters will pay you as a combatant to go and escort them or to get things that they can't get because they're too dangerous. So, having money as a combatant will simply flow from your ability to do your job. And whether your job is, hey, I really like helping crafters because they pay well, or hey, I would rather go out in the woods and participate in sieges, take down enemies. Whatever you do, you're going to get rewarded for that. Rewarded for it, excuse me.
Lottoween asks, it's been a long time since we've heard any news on the status of Lady J's condition. I hope that means she's still in remission.
Oh yeah, she's fine. With fortunately with her breast cancer, like most women who have her type, she's been on hormones and all is good. The hope is, as it is for, again, people who had, unfortunately her same kind of cancer, that with the hormone treatment, the breast cancer won't come back, nor will any other cancer that could occur from the metastasization that they found, which was minimal. So, we're hoping, and nothing but absolutely really good news from the doctors so far. So I thank you for your concern, but right now Lady J is fine.
Batchfile Gaming asks, what sort of penalties will there be for death, both PvP and PvE?
Well, again, we don't have PvE leveling, so if you get killed by a guard or something like that, there are no different penalties. In terms of being killed at all in RVR, that's something that we haven't addressed yet. It's something that we will try to balance from two very, very different standpoints. One, obviously, are sieges. The most important thing in the game. Obviously, group combat while you're running around the world is important too. But we've sold this game as, hey, we want to have large-scale battles. We want to do what other games haven't been able to deliver on. That's obviously really important. And on the other hand, of course, we have, don't want to say ease of use, but just, it's the best way to put it. It sounds sort of cold, but usability. So if death means, you lose some stuff, which we've said you don't, but let's just use it as an example. That's something that people might find objectionable, but if they could pop up right in the middle of the siege, they might not object as much. On the other hand, if you say you lose nothing, but you have to travel hours back, that wouldn't be good either. So it is going to be one of the most difficult things we have to balance. It really is. Because we have to somehow create a system that makes death so irrelevant that, and I've used this example before, where you're just playing whack-a-mole. He died, and then 2 seconds he pops right back up again. That's terrible, especially when you are in the middle of a siege. You don't want to be killing those people inside the keep to know that, oh yeah, they can just res like that. This is pointless. We're going to be here for days trying to take that castle. Same on the other side. If you've gone to the trouble of organizing a siege and you're there with, your guild or guilds, and you could die very easily and then have a huge travel time to return, that's not good either, because then people are going to get very bored very quickly. So balancing that is going to be a nightmare. We know it's going to be a nightmare, which is why we haven't done anything in terms of talking about it yet. Now, we have talked about various things here, and as we get closer to actually implementing some of them, we'll talk more with you folks about it. The key is, and this is a great question to end on, unless you've got something awesome there.
I think this is going to do it.
Okay. the key for us is really to ensure that the folks who are defending have an advantage, because that's the advantage of defending. You know, you have a keep, you have things in that keep that will allow you to do things that the attackers might not have access to. On the other hand, we also have to make sure that attacks do have a chance to succeed, that you don't have to have an overwhelming force of 20 to 1 or more to take, you know, a structure, because that means you're only going to be taking undefended, weak things. So balancing the two, we're going to try some different things. We're going to try some things that, you know, a variance on things that have been talked about or done before. At the end of the day, we will come up with a system that I hope will balance these things as well, if not better, than anyone who's done before, because this is our focus. You know, the whole mentality of RVR combat, of sieges, that's the focus of this game. So these sort of mechanics and systems are so important to get right, and we'll be iterating on them all throughout beta. So with that, because it was a great question, I want you folks to thank you as always for your support, for your patience. It was a great 2 weeks here. You're going to see a user story update that's huge. The particle system going in the improved particle system going in is such an important addition to the game. Like I said, it's been one of the 2 gating factors for Beta 1. So, you know, be happy, cheerful, because now we have the work in progress versions of those 2 systems in and working. Over the next few weeks, we'll be balancing them, working on them, tweaking them, iterating, choose your word, but hopefully soon we'll be able to say, now they're working, now they're in a state where we can estimate how much more work we have to go for Beta 1. So with that, have a great weekend, folks, and I'll see you next week.
All right, see you later.